So, I wanted to teach about a lifestyle of intimacy with God and how that leads to a life of significance. Great. So, right off the bat, I'm going to give you two things to think about. First, that God is both immanent and transcendent. And even though I know what those words mean, I still had to look them up just to make sure that I understood what they meant. So, transcendent, He's the divine creator of everything that's been created. And eminent means that He's present and actively involved in every aspect of our lives. We can know Him and interact with Him, and He desires to be involved in our life. Um, Second, will you think about this for a minute? Do you know, or have you ever wrestled with value or significance as it relates to how God views you? For me, intimacy, value, and significance were something that I've always struggled with. When I was 19, I accepted Jesus, and throughout my walk, my understanding of His involvement in my life has changed, and it's oftentimes been based on what my circumstances were at the moment. And it's funny to me how we do that, how we determine what we think about God's character on our circumstances, and just on our own experiences. At first, I was so lit on fire with the love of Jesus. When somebody gets saved, they're just like, running around lighting everything else on fire too, just because of their excitement. And that was true of mine. But His nearness seemed so evident to me at the time. But as time went on and life happened all around me, I went through things that made me doubt or question His involvement in my life, and a lot of times I felt really far away from Him. But what I've learned is that God's intimacy isn't based on our feelings. It's based on who He is and what He says about us. So what does God say about us? Who does He say that we are? How well does He know us? So I sincerely believe that when a child is conceived and the entire time that they're in the womb, that they intimately know God, that they know His voice and they know His love, that all they know is Him and their mother. Have you ever watched a baby coo or babble, and when there's nobody even around to hear them making a noise? Or have you seen them just look up at nothing and laugh for no apparent reason? And I really, truly believe that this is because they can see into the spirit realm still, that they can still hear God and see God in other spiritual things. As they age and as they get more distracted by things going on around them and different visual stimulation and physical interaction and everything, they hear God less and less because they're hearing the world around them more and more, and eventually they stop hearing Him at all because they just get so distracted by everything. And that's when all of us have to learn to discover a new relationship with God again and get to know who He is again and become aware of spiritual things. When Jeremiah was a youth, God called him as a prophet, saying, "Before I formed you in the womb, I knew you. And before you were born, I consecrated you. I have appointed you as a prophet to the nations." Then I said, "O Lord God, behold, I don't know how to speak because I'm a youth." But the Lord said to me, "Don't say I'm a youth, because everywhere I send you, you'll go. And everything that I command you, you shall speak. Don't be afraid of them, for I am with you to save you, declares the Lord." Then the Lord stretched out His hand and touched my mouth. And the Lord said, "Behold, I have put my words in your mouth. See, I have appointed you this day over the nations, over the kingdoms, to root out and to tear down, to destroy and to overthrow, to build and to plant." God knew Jeremiah which speaks of his intimacy. He consecrated him, which speaks to his identity. He blessed him to walk into all the things that he was created for. God appointed him, which speaks to his destiny. Furthermore, God goes as far as to reach out and touch his mouth and to remind him that I put my words in your mouth. Do you ever doubt the significance of your life or your calling? What would you fill that in with? So, Jeremiah was a youth. So other times, people in my life have asked me, so what do you do? And I'm like, oh, I'm just a mom, or oh, I'm just a wife, or oh, I'm just a teacher. And there's no jest with that. That's a calling. So when I read this, the depth of God's knowledge of Jeremiah, and in turn us, goes far beyond his time on earth or even in his mother's womb. It says specifically that before I formed you, this just bowled me over. Before I formed you, before anything happened to create any single part of you, he knew you. And before you were born, while you were still in your mother's womb, he knew you. Even our own mothers don't know us that well. Our own mothers desire us before we're conceived, but they don't know us. They only begin to know us when we start growing inside of them. And when it comes to purpose, God consecrated him before he was born. Jeremiah had a purpose before he was born, and so do we. That's both profound and intimate. I don't plan on crying. That's kind of funny. So I ask you the same question that I asked at the beginning. Do you now, or have you ever, wrestled with value or significance as it relates to how God views you? And does what you've heard today make you see that any differently? Last week I talked to the Lift kids when we were sitting outside about some of the same things and about God's view of us versus our own view of ourselves, and just how those are often very different. That how we view ourselves is based on what we do, or even how others see us, or what other people say about us. And I've talked so many times about how the enemy's voice is louder than God's a lot of times. And, it's easier to hear his voice than it is to hear the voice of truth. But none of that changes what God set in place or who God says we are. Our value and our significance come from knowing him and knowing who we are and knowing whose we are. Who we are, meaning God, who God created us to be, and whose we are, that we're his. We belong to him. We belong. And again in Psalms, David writes about the intimacy of God as it relates to us by saying, "O Lord, you have searched me, and you know me. You know when I sit and when I rise. You perceive my thoughts from afar. You discern my going out and my lying down. You are familiar with all my ways. Before a word is on my tongue, you know it completely, Lord. You hem me in behind and before. You lay your hand upon me. Such knowledge is too wonderful for me, too lofty for me to attain. Where can I go from your spirit? Where can I flee from your presence? If I go up to the heavens, you are there. If I make my bed in the depths, you are there. If I rise on the wings of the dawn or settle on the far side of the sea, even there your hand will guide me. Your right hand will hold me fast. If I say, surely the darkness will hide me, and the light become night around me, even the darkness will not be dark to you. The night will shine like the day, for darkness is as light to you. For you created my inmost being. You knit me together in my mother's womb. I praise you because I am fearfully and wonderfully made. Your works are wonderful. I know that full well. My frame was not hidden from you when I was made in the secret place, when I was woven together in the depths of the earth. Your eyes saw my unformed body. All the days ordained for me were written in your book before one of them came to be. Just based on his knowledge of us alone, that would be enough. But his love and his plans that he has for each of us overwhelm me. What a God. Okay, I said I wasn't going to cry. That he would consider us that important, that he would treasure us this much. If we came to a place where God's truth became our reality, how would this affect our lives? How would it affect our witness? God's called each of us into our own unique ministry, just like he did with Jeremiah. David also spoke of how God ordained all the days of our lives before one of them came to be. What is he calling you into? I want to leave you with something to think about. But before I do that, I want to say that if anyone struggles with value or significance or anything else, but specifically that, I would love to come alongside of you and to pray with you. So the question I want to leave you with is, what would it look like for you to step into that kind of intimacy with God?